Alrighty.
Alright, y'all, what's up? This is UB. I am joined by several people whom I will get to in a moment. But first, I want to say welcome to the inaugural DirtyNine cast. This is going to be a podcast focusing on the newly revived level 39 twink bracket, otherwise known as the best bracket in World of Warcraft, by my own completely biased thoughts. So the way this is going to work is you can see there are actually 5 bubbles up there for those in stream and those of you watching on VOD. This is going to be kind of a revolving cast of characters. Chops, myself, and Moran will probably be here most weekends. Hopefully Rise can fix his work issues and Ghost comes back from whatever far off the land he is in that caused him to not be here. We're going to kick this off by having the two that have joined me introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Big Moran himself.
What's up, guys? I'm Big Moran. Been playing 39 since last revival. Actually, I played 39s a long time ago. The character I play at max level, my druid, was once a 39 twink. So really enjoy the bracket. Really like being here on the cast. Should be fun. And I hope to have a good time.
And do you want to take a second to talk about this new podcast? You debuted episode 1, I believe, last Tuesday?
Yeah, I do. Well, probably will be doing a podcast on my own Twitch channel, twitch.tv/BigMoran. And along with that, I'll be streaming games. Sometimes twink games, sometimes max level stuff. So should be all pretty interesting. And haven't really thought of a complete structure for this podcast yet, but should be figuring that out soon.
Well, I'm excited to see what you come up with, and just hit that record button on the audio and we'll get you up on iTunes ASAP. And Chops, some people might know you, some people might not. That is one grizzly goddamn beard you have. We know that for sure.
Yeah, I'm Chops. I've been playing 39 Warrior since Vanilla. I've never really ever played any other class, so I have no idea what I'm doing in terms of anything else. And that's pretty much the story. I don't even play in-game at this point, so that's me.
All right, well, you have the intros out of the way. I'm guessing if you guys are listening or watching this, you know who I am. I'm, again, UB. You can hear me every Tuesday with UB, and now every Saturday with these lovely fellows. So let's jump right into what we're going to be talking about, which is, of course, 39s. And something I get a lot of questions about from people are you spend a lot of time talking about brackets. You spend a lot of time talking about XP PvP. But one thing that, well, you kind of neglect is the fact that you don't spend a whole lot of time, if any, on how do you get into it. So seeing how this is a revival, seeing how this is our first of the DirtyNine casts, what do you guys think about spending a little bit of time to help educate and let people know sort of the steps to take and where to go in terms of potentially joining the 39 bracket? You can kick that off, Chops.
Sure. Steps to take. First thing you want to do is you're going to jump on twinkinfo.com or bisnation.com and check out
.net, you silly fool.
.net. Sorry, bro. But you want to check out where like, you know, do you have a particular class you enjoy playing? What is the necessary gear to get, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The cool thing about 39s that I like a lot is that just about any class and spec is going to be viable. Now, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that a Holy Paladin is going to be the best healer in the field. It's really not. But you can get away with it. You can definitely play it if you enjoy playing a Holy Paladin. Or something, you know, similar things like if you enjoy playing a Fury Warrior, Fury is actually pretty damn viable. It's not as good as Arms, but it's definitely, you know, awesome. So whatever class or spec you want to play, you can definitely have an impact in the games. There's no sort of unviable thing to think of except maybe Elemental Shaman. Anyways, but you know, check it out. Check out the armories. Check out the sort of the gearing process, because unlike and one of the good things I think is that unlike back in like vanilla or BC or even Wrath, gearing a twink is really not that difficult these days. Given how many of your slots are filled with BOAs that you can just either buy from gold or you already have, and the rest of it being dungeon drops. There isn't any real rare gear. There isn't any real rare enchants or anything that you have, like anything like that. You just pretty much gear up in a day. All it really takes. So I mean, finding the gear you need is going to be pretty easy if you hit bisnation.net or twinkinfo.com and check out the armory lists. Beyond that, I would encourage you to check out some of the threads, especially on Twink Info, that talk about faction balance and class balance. And really, like, I mean, yes, some classes are exceedingly overpowered. We don't need any more of those.
Yes.
If you really like rogues, man, try something else. You know, if you really like playing BM monks, please try something else. I get it; those are fun, but we have enough of them. But you know what we don't have is hang on just a second. I can't multitask.
No, you're all good now.
But what we don't have enough of is we don't have enough healers. We don't have enough FCs. We don't have enough, sort of casters. We've got a lot of enhanced shaman and a lot of warriors and a lot of rogues and stuff like that. So if you enjoy playing any of those other classes, find out what we need and play something like that. That'd be, I guess, I've talked a lot. So I'm gonna go from there.
All right, Moran, you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, sure. I don't know because I DC'd, so I don't know what I missed.
He was basically, from after you left, he was talking about classes that the bracket may need, like such as FCs and healers and such, and everything else I believe you heard.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's mostly always healers, and especially good healers, like Resto Shamans and Disc Priests. And the nice thing is with the Disc Priest, if you do decide to roll a priest, you have the option of playing Shadow. So if you can really find these classes where you have two roles, which could be Mistweaver Monk, and you could play BM Monk on the side, or Resto Shaman and play Ellie or Enhance on the side, things like that. I think rolling hybrids is really good, just because on any given night you can really sort of fill the void of whatever's missing. So say your team, you notice that when you're queuing Alliance, there's too many healers for whatever reason. You could then decide to just respec, because you have dual talent specialization at 39, which is actually really convenient. And so you can swap between specs if you notice that one faction is missing something. So that's one of the things. And then as far as like for the original question, getting into the bracket, it really doesn't take that much time. As far as gearing, I mean, if you really want to get like complete best in slot, it might take a while, just because, like, for instance, the best in slot ring for rogues, one of the best in slot rings for rogues is the charged gear from Nomergon, which is one of the most annoying farms. and I've almost given up on it. I got my emissary cuffs. I got my bracers from Nomergon.
You got the cuffs before the ring?
Yeah, I got the cuffs before the ring. So,
wow.
So yeah, for the most part though, your gear, you can get it from Scarlet Monastery, Scholomance, Maradon, I don't know if Dire Maul. So it's just all about running instances, and it doesn't take too long. And then the enchants are pretty standard. You just gotta look at the auction house, figure out what enchants give you the best stats, and go from there. So it doesn't take too long. It's not too much of an investment. And actually, gold-wise, it's probably cheaper than 19s for some classes, because 19s you need a lot of BOE gear. 39s you don't need as much BOE gear.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to point out too, because some people that are listening that may have played 39s in the past are like, wait, you gotta get underworld bands. You've got to get these crazy rogue weapons. I mean, I guess still Dazzling Longsword and Sword of Decay. Rogue might actually be one of the classes where having those BOEs that are rare and you need to find are still applicable. But if you're making a caster, it is so easy and so cookie cutter. I don't even really know how else to say it. I mean, it's basically you just run dungeons and you're best in slot and throw in some BOAs. How you see, like what I've found, and I don't know what you guys think about this or what your thoughts are, is that the main difference I see between, say, leather-based wearing casters and cloth-based wearing casters, like just to put them in their own categories, is how they enchant. Whether it's, say, like I'm running full versatility on my Resto Shaman, but there's a lot of Resto Shamans that are running full haste, and that's basically the only difference outside of the fact I was fortunate enough to, say, like get Green Lens of the Eagle, have Dead Man's Hand, and I have the Unearthed Bracers of the Eagle, which actually there's probably something better, but I just keep for swag points.
Yeah, I think Rogue specifically is the one class that's probably going to be the most expensive. If like ignoring the super grandfathered like unearthed bands of agility and Green Lens, I think Rogue is going to be the most expensive. But yeah, something like a priest, for example, can be very cheap, and not requiring much BOE gear at all. So
and even
really accessible.
Even the underworld bands, which used to be the big expense for casters, they're not best in slot anymore. So if you're thinking about rolling a healer, which conveniently is what we need the most of, wow, talk about the cheapest in the bracket easily. Like that is the shortest and cheapest entry into 39s we could have is healers.
And if this wasn't a big enough pro, this is the crazy thing about 39s now. The worst thing about making a 39 used to be the rev runs. You had to run rev no matter what you were, and all you would do is get bear this, bear that, and that was the last thing you freaking needed. Even if you needed bear, you'd get the boots on first run, and then you get them for the next 10. You can go through and make your healer, and there are alternatives to the Revloft, say, Gloves of the Eagle or Gloves of Intellect, that are actually better, and a lot of that has to do with the way that scaling has come into play. So how have you guys seen that change things, other than it just being easier to gear or tune? Are there any outliers that you guys have found as far as the gearing process? You're like, oh, shit. Like, this is actually better. We're using, like, say, 19 gear for this or something like that.
Yeah. Thorbia's gauntlets, for instance, on a plate DPS, or I guess male DPS at this level, are scale up in terms of at least having strength and stam better than what used to be best in slot in the bracket, which was the Crag's Fist from Uldaman. So, I mean, if you're not looking for crit, Thorbia's gauntlets are going to be better for you than traditionally 39 best in slot. Yeah. So I mean, there's weird stuff like that, and like I was actually just realizing it on my own warrior. I've been on the rev grind for bracers of attack power for 2 weeks now. Jesus. But I was just thinking I could get the old 29 bracers or the 20 bracers, the some quest bracer from Darkshire, I don't remember. But I could get those, and those probably scale up to be just as good, if not better, than the attack power bracers from Ultimate. So why not? It's given scaling, you have a lot more options to kind of build a tune more in line with what you're going for than what used to be the sort of cookie cutter build.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on the whole gearing thing, Moran, or do you want to move into what we've actually experienced in games?
I'll just say like a few things. Like there is a thread right now about scaling gear, and some items scale really well. Like for example, spider silk boots for casters give a lot of int, give a lot of stam, and those are usually pretty cheap on the auction. They're not too expensive, but just things like that. Like I think there's even a level 10 chest piece that casters can use at 39s.
Is that 1/1? I saw someone a Leaps or Lipsy or something like that who had a 1/1 piece of gear. And like, how crazy can this scaling thing be to actually make this viable?
Yeah, and it's really good. Like, there's some voodoo going on with the scaling. Like I'm not sure how it works. I swear it's like it's not some like some formula. It's just like it decide like the items themselves just kind of decide what they want to be. So yeah, and then there are some really goofy things like with damage coefficients. Like on my monk, if I have, for instance, if I have Dazzling Longsword equipped in my main hand, it's a really fast weapon, so its high end damage is low. But if the high end damage will be lower than say like the BOA weapon. But when I have Dazzling Longsword in my main hand, all the damage coefficients of my abilities go way up for some reason, for some weird reason. So like having, like I think it's just like having an epic in your main.
Does it have anything to do with the proc, or I guess no, the proc wouldn't do it.
No, because the Dazzling Longsword doesn't have any stats, so it's not you're not gaining anything from having it in your main hand. But when I put it in my main hand, my damage on all my abilities, like the tooltip goes up. So it's like really weird. It doesn't make sense like why this is happening. So like you just have to check tooltips, check scaling lists, and experiment really. You don't even have to have the item equipped to see its scaling. If you just join a game, if you just join an arena or join a BG with the item in your inventory, you can see what it scales to. So you don't even have to have it equipped if you're unsure whether or not you want to use something.
Blizzard just wants you to be blinged out and shit.
Yeah.
All right, let's actually move in. Let's start with BGs. We've had 2 weeks so far, and I guess, Moran, you went last chops. Let's go with you. What have your thoughts been so far with your initial impressions on the 39 Battlegrounds?
I think they're a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun. I think given that 39s have access to not Warsong Gulch, the bracket is.
I like how you phrase that. Not Warsong Gulch.
Anything like it's weird. I think for the first time in my WoW career, I'm tired of Warsong Gulch. But I think having the option of Twin Peaks last week was way cool.
Hell yeah!
In terms of combat and the gameplay itself, it's fast. It's real fast. The burst is pretty high, and right now everybody is kind of geared towards burst. So there's not a whole lot of stam stacking outside of like 1 or 2 people, and so we haven't really seen. I don't think we're at a point where we've seen every combination of every class and every gearing style yet, so that's also exciting and fun. Holy shit, what happens when we run into a stam-stacked Affliction Lock or something like that? I don't know. What happens when we run into a stam-stacked Shaman? Well, we know. But, I think it's fast. It's very it's a little bit more fluid and a little less sort of Einsvein Warsong Gulch that like 19s are, where it's very the lines of battle are very clearly delineated, and we're like the redcoats and the American militiamen like shooting at each other from across the field. Whereas in 39s, it's more of it's a fucking clusterfuck. And that's to me a little bit more fun. But the gameplay is definitely a little bursty. But I love that there's more class viability. Like seeing a Frost Mage, I'm not sitting there going, well, shit, this is going to be an easy kill. Like, no, Frost Mages are actually kind of fun, that kind of thing. So I think it's been an enjoyable 2 weeks so far.
What about you, Mr. Moran?
Yeah, I've really been enjoying the Battleground pops, and I kind of wish we would play other maps. But that's something that Anatomy, I guess, would have to figure out. But
I have a question real quick going off that. You want to play other maps? There was something brought up on a TI thread, and I believe you suggested let's do some Battle of Gilneas. And another member of the community was like, dude, there's just not enough CC to make that viable. And the first thing that I thought was, maybe he's right. Because I'm thinking, there's the 3 bases. If you're the first one to get 2, how the hell are you going to be able to get that third? Or I'm sorry, switch it so you go from 1 to 2, take 1, and then start turning the tides in your favor. Because I'm sure the 3 of us know if you get 2, that's going to add up really fast. And then you responded, and you just I actually laughed really hard when I saw it. It's like, well, here's, I don't know, 1/10 of the CC available right now. It just put the images, and it was like, okay. So, like, what are your thoughts on that, of being able to do something like Gilneas, like, to the naysayers?
Well, I think Gilneas games would be super fun if you had like a really balanced matchup. If one team didn't have any healers, it wouldn't be very fun. But if you had like 3 healers on both sides, I think it could be by far one of the most fun BGs. And I don't know if you can run Silver Shard mines at 39s. But that would also be a fun one. Just because it's really team fight oriented, and I mean like objective play is really important on Gilneas and Silver Shard. But it really pushes people to be better, or to be good at just doing damage, doing healing, being in the team fight. So I think these other maps could be really fun, just because there isn't as big a focus on objectives, especially with Gilneas. It's more of a team fight sort of thing. But yeah, I think it could be really. We tested them. We did some games, some war games. Granted, it was like 7v7 war games before the revival, and we were having fun in Gilneas. The games were, I mean, they were close, and so close games are always more fun than one-sided games. So, I mean, from my point of view, it seemed to be really successful. So,
well, then that definitely could. I think that would be fun to go in, because I have limited experience with Silver Shard mines, like just doing mess around RBGs and messing around at max level. I've done it, but I think you're right in the fact that it would be so team oriented, and it may be a lot of players that really don't have a lot of experience with it. And just like Chops, how you said the clusterfuck, there would be a huge clusterfuck for the first few of those games. As people are like, oh, should we sit mid and try and get the card off the back? Who's going to go get this card? Who's going to do that? That could be pretty badass, just figuring that out. And now that we have that 39 public TeamSpeak that Shades is providing, it's possible that we could actually have the communication to go forward and make things like that work, where otherwise there just wouldn't be a chance.
Oh yeah, like I've never played Silver Shard mines ever. I've got no idea how the gameplay works. I'd like to. I think it'd be fun. I'd especially like to in 39 because I think that's a fun bracket. Sorry, my dog's being a fucking idiot. But yeah, I think it'd be a fun bracket to try Silver Shard mines in. That'd be a blast. Let's do it. I think sign it up.
All right, sorry, Marin. I cut you off just because I wanted your thoughts on that tangent there, but continue on what you think on state of bracket currently, or what you've experienced so far.
Oh, it's pretty fun. I mean, I think the only downfall, and you don't really experience this much at 19s, just because 19s seem to only have like one game going at a time.
Yeah.
But like the other day when we were playing 39s, I think there was like 2 or 3 games going, and I mean, the only problem is sometimes you get really imbalanced games. So like one pair of matches will be really favored toward the Horde. One pair will be favored toward the Alliance. And that's nothing. That's no problem with the bracket itself. It's just a problem with like the queuing system and when everyone decides to queue, sort of thing. But it seems like a lot of people do have characters on both factions too, so that's one of the nice things, is people are willing to swap over. Like I tend to swap over if I see that one faction's lacking. I'll try to balance out games as best I can.
That's something that I'm really happy to see. High-profile people such as yourself and Anatomy and Boots and others that are not only talking about having tunes on both sides, but really backing it up. And if you're seeing one side is slacking, like, you are people that really will make a difference in a game. So by switching sides, you're working towards, and you're actually helping make games better. It's not just like, man, I wish these games were better. It'd be so cool if someone did something. You're actually doing something and taking that proactive approach. And Chops, you may be able to back me up on this. I think that's something that the history of 39s is steeped in. Whether it would be the previously mentioned by Moran, have alternate faction tunes, or it would be, yo man, the other side's at 9, we're going to have to sit one out till someone comes in. It wasn't just about, that flavor of the month. It wasn't just about winning the game. It was providing that competitive atmosphere to have as good a games as possible.
Yeah, 39's, at least as long as I've been in organized play in 39's, it's always been about making the quality of the games as good as possible rather than I am going to win on this tune.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's that carrying over into this revival and seeing people like Moran and Boots, like people who are phenomenal players and will have an impact on games, swapping back and forth to make sure games stay balanced is awesome. And I think that's a really big and fun part of the bracket. I mean, I can do it. I've got warriors on both sides, but I'm not, I'm terrible, so nobody really cares. But when somebody like Moran does it, that's a big deal. And I think it's good to see those high profile players taking the lead on that and really trying to build that sort of positive culture towards, we're all in this together. It's not a Horde versus Alliance thing, which I think is silly. Like, what the hell? But
yes,
I think it's a good thing to see, and it's really kind of, I don't know, it makes me feel good. It's
Aw, do you get the warm fuzzies inside? Like you had a late night with some Netflix and The Office and some hot cocoa?
Yeah. Netflix and chill, right?
So going forward, there's a lot of talk about it actually being time to expand the bracket after only 2 weeks. And Moran, seeing what happened with the last revival and the negative effects of, rapid over expansion, and seeing the way things are right now, where somehow, and I think a lot of it has to do with the Twink Cup, I think a lot of it has to do with like the pre-hype that like you and some other people were putting in. And then I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that Living just came out of nowhere like, what's up, boys? How you feeling about a 39 Twink Cup? Because I'm going to put it up and I'm going to make it happen. What do you think about whether or not the bracket is ready to see a second night?
Well, we'll have to see how games go like tonight. Just because, like when I tried to do that silly like revival thing, it was, I don't know, I was really optimistic about it, and I was completely like new into the concept of revivals. Like that is the first time that I've ever experienced. It didn't make sense to me. I was like, why do we need a revival? Like, why can't people just log on and play? Like, why does it need to be a big organized thing? But then people really want that organization. So as far as getting like 2 games or 2 game nights, I don't know if it's healthy to do it now. I mean, we'll see how many games are going tonight. I mean, the nice thing is there has been, a peak of interest because the Twink Cup is over. And then on the flip side of that, you have a potential 39 Twink Cup. And I mean, I guess it's nice to see activity because of, incentivization from or incentive from money. But I hate to see that be the only incentive. You know what I mean? It's like it's nice, but it's sad that you have to like dangle a dollar on a stick for people to like start running. It's like I really wish that people just play every day. So that's kind of how I stand. I mean, I think for as far as getting a second game, I think you should see how it goes for this week, and then make a decision following this week's games, and then see how serious the 39 Twink Cup will be.
Well, this is something, I don't know if you saw the post I made in response to the thread that Anatomy made, but there are basically 2 metrics that at least Rise and I have always talked about as being the main points of deciding whether or not you're ready to put in another night. The first and most important is, do you have multiple games running for multiple hours? And we've actually crossed those off in the first 2 weeks. The second is, the games start early. And we've actually been able to cross those off 2 weeks. But more to your point, Moran, I think you're right in that if for 3 weeks running, if we can have 2, I mean, we had 3 games, possibly even 4 going at the same time last week. If we can get that going again, like, it scares me to say this, but perhaps it's time to add that third night. the metrics are met. Like, do you guys agree with that or no?
Well, I think a lot of our hesitancy is that every past revival, uh, the bracket has collapsed as soon as we've tried to add another night, right?
Yeah.
And so we look at it, and we kind of, I don't know why feel like there's a sense of urgency to make this revival the revival that sticks, but I feel like there really is. And so we're very protective of it. At least those of us who have been around for a while, we've got this idea that we're chasing what 39s used to be, and we'll never get there, but we're still chasing it. And we're very worried
when you want to chase the dragon.
Yeah, we're very worried that expanding is going to collapse the bracket that we love so much. But I think what's different this time around is, one, how many brackets can claim that they had 4 games going simultaneously more than once? And two, we have that carrot on the stick that Moran was talking about, and that makes a big difference this time. Like, I think yes, we can say that in the past, early expansion has collapsed the bracket because we don't have a sort of end game, so to speak. But now we have an end game. We have a Twink Cup to look towards, and people are. I mean, yes, it's kind of sad that we can't just all log on and play our 39s every night, but that end game gives us a sort of a momentum towards something. So if we keep that momentum going, we do a month of one night, then we add a second night. We've got that going for a couple months, and then we add an arena night to that. We keep that going for a couple months into the Twink Cup. We've got that sort of building momentum for a bracket that can really make a bracket stick. And I think that's the key difference this time around from last time around. And I know early on I was very adamant that we not expand early, but I think looking at the activity, maybe I'm just buying into the hype too much, but I feel like expansion is a good move because we do have that momentum to build toward. We have an end game.
It's such a strange thing to say when people after the first week were starting like, oh, let's go to 3, let's go to 4, and it's like with the last one, Moran, it's like you just don't understand, and there's no reason for you to because you've never been in those shoes before. It's like 39s are awesome. Why wouldn't you want to log in and queue every day? It's like, it's just not the way it works. There's so many factors that go into it, but for whatever reason, just because it's fun isn't enough reason for people to go ahead and do it every day. There needs to be some sort of structure. There needs to be some sort of emphasis on game nights to make it appointment queuing, and that's what protects the bracket and lets it grow long term. And that's why people like Chops and I, and now you, Moran, are like, oh, I don't know. Let's slow the roll down a little bit because the overexpansion is time and time again just killed it. But the factors in this current revival might just be enough to shift it to the point that we can expand way faster than we ever would have in the past. And that's pretty fucking exciting, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the nice things about this specific revival is that it's been like a Twink Cup team has been participating in this revival.
Yes.
So I think that's a big deal. Like JCM has done a good job all making 39s. At least I think most of them have 39s now. So I think that's a big thing. Like once you have groups of people queuing, or at least making Twinks, I think that's when you can have multiple games, and multiple nights. Is you just need these groups of people, because you can't rely on sort of the independent, unorganized masses to get things going. You really need groups, and so that's one of the nice things. And a few members of skill ratio have made 39s, not as many as I'd like, but if for instance, if skill ratio all made Alliance Twinks or something, I think that'd be really healthy for the bracket. Just so you have teams that are participating, at 39s, and where you have really organized people really contributing to Q-pops.
Hell yeah, and that's a great point, because what you were saying before, like, the unorganized masses are just like the individuals coming in and being responsible and needed in order to make it pop. Like, if you have one, like, say Airy Peak, we'd have like 3 people, but 3 people aren't going to be on 3 nights a week. You have one person over on Bleeding Hollow. You have one person on Doomhammer, a couple people on Lethon, and everyone's scattered around. It's like, I could log in or I cannot log in. But if you know you're going to be able to log in and see 3 or 4 friends, like, yeah, I'll do that. Or if you have 3 or 4 people all hitting you up like, yo, man, it's 39 night, let's go. And you have multiple groups of that, then you have a foundation that other revivals have not had in the past, because there hasn't been such an influx of, I guess, new blood, to use another term, or maybe even old blood coming back in for a new shot. It's been like the last vestige of old school 39s with a couple other people who are like, hey, what's that in the window? Let's check it out. Yeah, not really for me. I'm going to walk down to the next store or the next bracket, or just go back to what they're comfortable to.
Yeah, and I think, for instance, I think you got to find whatever the incentive is for people to play. And I think making it a social thing is the way to go. Like, for instance, the only time I play 19s now is if I get messaged by someone asking me if I want to play 19s. I don't voluntarily do it. At least for the most part. Like, sometimes I do, but for the most part, I have to wait for... I'm not going to play 19s unless someone messages me. And so I think you got to find whatever that incentive is, and I think it might just be that the social environment to get people queuing.
Yeah.
And I think if you... I think that might actually be a problem with the 39 bracket, and why the revivals tended to, like, fail in the past is because you don't really have these groups. The guilds aren't that big of a deal at 39. Like I'm in Sprinkles Guild or whatever, Pulse, but I don't care about being in that guild. It's just like I could G quit if I want. It wouldn't mean anything to me. But like at 19s, I wouldn't G quit skill ratio. So I think the more people sort of organize and get like in actual guilds, if that would be possible, I think that could definitely help the revival a little bit.
So do you think also having that public team speak for everyone to get in, meet some new people, and sort of, instead of just forming little cliques with the people, say, on Lethon, or the people on Airy Peak, or the people on Bleeding Hollow, they instead ingratiate themselves in the bracket as a whole. And so they can just pop on, they'd be like, oh shit, we got games. You in Warsong 1, you in Twin Peaks, they pop into that channel. They're not in a game, say they pop down to my bar and lounge, or like one of the other general chat channels, so people can get to know each other. And then it's almost like, oh dude, it's Saturday, I can jump in games and shoot the shit with Chops and Big Maria. Fuck yeah, let's get some games going.
I think that TeamSpeak is definitely nice, and yeah, having like any sort of social environment where people are like encouraging you to play, and you're encouraging people to play. I think that's the way to go about getting a healthy queuing system. It's like, I never skateboarded as a kid, but like skateboarding is something that you'd always do with your friends, right? You could do it alone, but it was more fun to do it with your friends, and it really pushed you to try new things. And I think that's the sort of approach you should take with 39s, is like, getting all your friends together and going out and playing ball or shooting hoops, whatever it is. If you get people actively playing with each other in a setting where they kind of feel connected, as lame as that might sound, I think that's what it's going to take.
I've used
continue games going.
Not skateboarding, but rollerblading, because that's what I did for an obscenely long portion of my life. But I've used that analogy a kabillion times, so I think that was perfectly on point and a great one to use. Where it's like the skate park is your Warsong Gulch, or your TeamSpeak. And everyone's sitting on the mini ramp waiting to go down. Let's say that's the individual channel you're in. And it's each person goes on their own, but you have everyone else going in. I love it. I think it's a great analogy. What do you think about that, Chops, too? Because you and I have always been huge proponents of community, possibly overall.
Oh no, I think that's absolutely vital. To draw a different analogy, it's like my gym. It's so hard for people to go to the gym by themselves, you know. But if you've got a workout buddy, if you've got a group of people that you go and see every time that you're at the gym, you're more likely to go do it. People that you know, people who know your name, people who can ask you how work's going, and they actually know what it is you do for a living. Like these are things that build a community, and I think a public team speak, a place where you can hang out in between games and then go to your various channels depending on what game you got and all that stuff. I think that will build community, and I think looking forward to Saturday night, not just because, hey man, I get to go play 39s and Pwn New Bass and Warsaw Gulch, or I get to go show those soccer dads what it's like to be a real player. It's also, you get the added benefit. Hey man, I get to go hang out with you. I get to go hang out with Moran. I get to go hang out with with Buck. I can go say hi to all these people that I know. Like, I know that they're going to be there, and 39s becomes your cheers. You log into TeamSpeak, man. There's really, it's a good feeling to log in and everybody be like, hey Chops, how you doing, man? It makes me feel good. It makes other people feel good. I think it drives the bracket in a very healthy direction.
Fuck yeah. So what about, we spent some time on community, we spent some time on BGs. Do you guys have any thoughts on arenas? Anatomy, who is the new bracket master for 39s, had a very smart idea of, instead of going for that second Warsaw Gulch night, going for an arena night, which I thought was genius in a sense, even though it seems so obvious on the surface. But what has your guys' experience been in arenas to this point?
Well, I think they're really fun, but the problem with arenas is that's where the class imbalances really show their face. Like for instance, if I'm playing my rogue in arena, I'm just like, I feel like a god, because rogues are really good in arena. Yeah, rogues are really good in arena, and another class that's really good are Windwalker monks, and that's where you get into these really big class imbalances. Like, I felt so bad. Like, the one night I was queuing, and I wouldn't even like stealth. I would just like run up on my mount to, like, I think it was Dime Brew. I felt bad. Like, he would get, oh no, what would happen is I'd get caught out of stealth by his Mindseer every time, and I wouldn't care. I'd just pop, sprint, run at him, and I'd eventually just kill him on my rogue, and there's nothing he can do about it. Like, it's how it happens. He'll die eventually. So you get these really, from my point of view, you get kind of depressing games in arena. And but if people were to play, like, I don't know what would be a good comp, like a good matchup, but if you could avoid these really messed up matchups, and you could really control, maybe if you did even 3v3. If you did 3v3 with class restrictions, I think that would be really fun. But just like 2v2, the problem is, like, especially if you're solo queuing, you can get paired up against people who are group queuing, and you're like, if they're running like priest rogue or something, or priest monk, like, there's no way you're gonna win. So, I don't know. Arenas to me have been kind of, I mean, they're fun when I'm playing my OP classes, but they're not so fun when I'm not. So, like, there's no way I can play my Warlock in Arena and be competitive. Like, in 2s, like, there is no, like, Warlocks are good in 3s, and Shadow Priests are good, or Warlocks are good in BGs, and so are Shadow Priests. But trying to play them in Arena, it's like, it's not going to happen. You're not going to have a fun time. So you need to be playing the really overpowered melee, it seems like, in Arena to do anything.
Do you think there's a chance that as people become more familiar with each other, that they'll realize, like, I don't want to be that douche that just queues in, say, Feral Rogue or Rogue Priest or any of the comps you were mentioning? Like, let's switch things up and try something that'll provide better games and then stimulate more pops. Because I noticed, I'd say the first week I could get pops basically every day. I might have to wait 10 or 15 minutes, but I get pops. I waited in queue for 2 hours yesterday, got a pop, DC'd as soon as I accepted pop. And then I actually did get, I guess, another 3 or 4 games. But they're popping less and less frequently, and it might have a lot to do with what you said, where people are being like, why am I going to queue into arenas when it's all enhance, feral, rogue, disc, variant comps? It'd be nice. Or Chops, go ahead.
So I think what we were just talking about as far as community goes, and what you were just touching on, is like, the more you get to know the people that you're playing with, and the more you enjoy playing with them, the less like you're not going to say, like, if you and Rise were playing, you're like, hey man, let's go play twos. Well, I like you and Rise, man. I'm not going to queue Priest Rogue into you guys. It's just fucking rude.
Well, you're not. We're going to be playing. What are we going to do? Double Resto Chamois?
Yeah, I don't know. That's like shit. You get my point. Like,
no, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
If when we got together and we played. Me and Mangry and you and Rise, and we were swapping around and stuff, we made an effort. It was like, well, these two guys are getting stomped on, so let's swap it up a little bit and play, and that kind of thing. Like, when you get to know the people, you're more likely to be willing to listen to them say, hey man, let's not play your feral druid this time. Be like, hey, I'll get on my whatever, or
just switch to Boomkin.
Yeah, or just, hey, man, could you play Boomkin? Yeah, sure, because you like the people you're playing with. So I think I think twos at 39s is almost too imbalanced. Like Moran was touching on, it's pretty much going to be, Priest Rogue, Priest Monk, whatever ends up, or, some cheese comp like Dual Rogue or some shit like that. And that's never fun to queue into. But I think threes, with a class restriction like, hey, only one stealther, or, hey, no feral druids or something like that, could be a lot of fun. That would be, I think that's where the 39's arenas is organized threes tournament.
That I think you could talk me into, even though I'm traditionally not the best arena player. But god damn, that would be fun. What do you think on that, Mel?
Don't go off the fucking bridge, like. We'll be all right.
All right, we can't ask for miracles here, man. All right, well, I think it might be about time to start wrapping this up. We've been going for close to, 40 minutes, close to an hour now. Moran, you got any closing thoughts you'd like to give on this?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you're interested in 39s, I think it's something they should definitely give a shot, you should definitely try 39s. It's a gateway into fun. But
it's the marijuana of twinks.
Yeah, but no, it's fun, and it's very. I mean, it's kind of comparable to 19s in this weird way. So if you do like 19s, I think there is a chance you might like 39s. But I think the biggest thing about twink brackets is people should just be really open to things. I know a lot of people. I mean, the biggest complaint I hear in like the 19 curse voice call is like, I don't like mounts. Like that, I always hear that. Like mounts ruin everything. And it's the thing about mounts is everyone has a mount. It's not like you're the only person on the mount. They're the only person. Like everyone has access to these things, and they don't really affect the game in a super negative way that I think people think. So if people can be really open to things and just try 39s for at least like 1 week and see if they like it, I think that'd be nice. And then on top of that, just try to figure out what classes are needed on both factions. It's usually healers, usually FCs, range DPS are always nice to have. So I think if people are really open and really willing to make the classes that factions need, I think it's going to be a very fun time.
Absolutely. And Chops, and also Dak, I don't know if you noticed this, but Chops is wearing the old twinking.net shirt, so you have to get a couple one-ups for that, my friend. And what's your bow for this?
I was just gonna say, I think 39s have the potential to be the best bracket in the game. And if you want to check it out, conveniently the classes we need the most, healers, are the easiest classes to gear and be ready to play at 39s.
Yeah.
You're not going to find an easier thing to gear than a Disc Priest, really. And we need them. So if you're at all interested in twinking 39s, catch us in game, catch us on Twitter. We've got our Twitter handles down there at the bottom of our pictures. Shoot us a message, man. We'd be happy to get you going.
All right, and I will just reiterate those Twitter handles for the people listening. Chops, the one that just spoke, is at Chops Out Loud. Big Moran is at Big Moran Druid. Moran, what is your Twitch?
Twitch.tv/Big Moran.
And stay tuned for future updates on his upcoming podcast. I thank you guys all for listening to the inaugural DirtyNine cast. We will catch y'all next week. Until then, for Rise, who unfortunately could not make it, see you on the field. All right, I'm going to shut down stream. Thanks, guys, for tuning in on stream. If any of y'all are playing 39s, we shall see you tonight, my